Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining the Family Resource Center this morning to listen to this webinar about our webinar today is presented in collaboration with the Office of Instructional Services Department and also the Office of Special Education and Instruction with FCPS. Our webinar today is Benchmark Advance the New K-6 Grade Language Arts Curriculum. We have today with us the wonderful ladies from these offices, Diane Lipling and Jillian Lynch. They will be presenting for us today. Thank you.
Thank you
Good
so
morning.
much.
Thank you. Again, I'll reintroduce myself. I'm Dr. Jillian Lynch, and I'm from the Office of Special Education Instruction here with my colleague, Diane. I'll let her introduce herself.
I'm Diane Leipzig, and I am the principal in residence for the Equitable Access to Literacy Plan, responsible for supporting our principals in this work.
So we're going to start today by exploring more about Benchmark Advance, our new language arts curriculum in grades K through 6. Here's an overview of our outcomes for today. So we have the expectation that we'll learn about the components of the evidence-based literacy program Benchmark Advance. We will also learn about Benchmark Advance and the cross-curricular units that are embedded within. And lastly, we'll also learn about Benchmark Advance scaffolds and supports for students with disabilities. As a general reminder, this is the first year of implementing Benchmark as our Tier 1 program. So we are all in this together during this first year process. We're going to start off our presentation with a poll that you should see pop up on your screen. We just want to get a sense of who is here in our audience today. So just take a moment and let us know about your child or children, what grades they're currently in.
All right.
We have about 86%.
There you go. Yeah.
Almost 100%. Nice. So we see most of our participants today have students in the elementary setting. I'll share those results. Oops. Try that again.
Gotcha.
Okay. With some parents who have children in preschool, middle school, and high school. So thank you all for being here with us today with this presentation. All right, Diane. Oh, I'll start with the video. Diane, if you want to introduce it real quick.
Of course. What we're going to do now is share a video that you may have seen at your school's back to school night, which really just previews the 3 big changes that we are engaged in this year at the elementary level. So we're going to start here and then kind of dig in much more to the curriculum change with Benchmark Advance.
There we go.
This coming year, the Virginia Literacy Act goes into full effect in all schools across Virginia. There are 3 major changes coming this school year. The first one is our new language arts curriculum. The second one is a new state test for reading in grades K through 3. And then the third change is about individualized reading plans for students who need extra help. The Benchmark Advance is our reading and writing curriculum. It's going to teach students phonics and word study, so how they decode and read words and spell words. It's going to teach comprehension skills, so helping students to build knowledge and vocabulary to be able to understand a variety of topics, as well as writing in different genres and different processes. So this is going to ensure that all of our students, no matter which school that they go to, no matter which teacher they have, it will ensure all students are receiving the same curriculum and that we're meeting their individual needs. The curriculum guarantees what all students are going to be learning. It's grounded in our Virginia standards of learning. It's grounded in reading research in the way that it's taught to students. But it also is being taught by a teacher who is responsive to the needs of each and every individual child. We have been making this transition to ensuring that our instruction is grounded in reading research over the last few years. So we have had an equitable access to literacy plan for the last several years, which has really helped our teachers transition into ensuring that their reading instruction is grounded in research. But the one missing component that we didn't have was a common curriculum for everyone. And so that's the big change for this year, is that teachers have been building their knowledge in understanding the science of reading. They understand the best practices about how students learn to read. And now we're all teaching from the same book because we're all having the same curriculum and lessons to be able to teach from. Benchmark Advance includes a lot of great resources to be able to help parents and caregivers help their child at home. There's a caregiver's website that you can go to learn more about the program. There are homeschool connection letters that you're going to see sent home this year. And then at the end of each of the units, there are about 3 weeks, at the end of each unit, the magazine or student booklet your child's been using is going to go home so you can see what they've been reading. And it includes a lot of really interesting take-home activities, things you can do at home. And the other great thing is that all students, no matter their grade, are going to be learning around the same topic or theme. So if you have students in multiple grade levels, you can have conversations about the things they're learning and they're going to relate and connect. The state of Virginia has adopted a brand new state test of reading. It's called the Virginia Language and Literacy Screening System. We call it VALS for short. And this is a new screener to identify areas of risk so that we can provide them that additional instruction that they might need to become strong readers and writers. We can identify if a student is at a low risk for developing reading difficulties. They're well prepared. They need to continue to receive the instruction at their grade level. A student might have moderate risk, which means that they are going to need some additional support to support them, some additional lessons, things like that. But then some students might fall into the high risk category. That means that they're at high risk for developing reading difficulties, and that alerts the teacher that this student needs explicit instruction, intensive extra instruction to make sure that they can get on track to becoming a strong reader and writer. The great thing about the reading plan component of the Virginia Literacy Act is that it says that parents can be involved and should be involved in this process. We're developing resources and websites for activities and things you can do to support your child at home. And you can also anticipate quarterly reports. So along with your child's progress report for how they're doing at their grade level in all subjects, if your child has a reading plan, you'll see their progress on the reading plan. How are they working towards that goal that was set to get closer to where we want them to be at the end of the year? I think what I'm most excited about is that across the division, every classroom you go into, you know that students are building their knowledge and becoming stronger readers and writers.
Thank you, Jillian. So the Parent Resource Center slides from today also have the YouTube video in Spanish of that video we just watched. So I'm going to go ahead and put the link to the Spanish version in the chat for our Spanish-speaking families to take a look at after this presentation. But the link is also available to you when we share your slides. So it is very exciting. All the changes that are coming are really an outgrowth of 3 converging sources, 3 different reasons why we are sort of aligning our efforts to improve how we teach literacy, how we assess literacy, and how we support kids who need extra help. The first is the Virginia Literacy Act. The Virginia Literacy Act went into effect this fall. It is a law that says that all students in Virginia schools will be taught using approved curriculum that aligns with what we know to be the best methods for teaching reading per research. The second force that's acting upon our work is the Equitable Access to Literacy Plan in Fairfax County. We embraced this plan in 2021 because we didn't need to wait for the state to tell us that there were better ways for us to meet the needs of all of our students and make sure that we are closing gaps in achievement so that every child across our division has equal opportunities and equal access to high quality instructional materials and the very best we have to offer in terms of instruction, intervention, and making data-based decisions that will help close gaps as early as possible, which leads to our strategic plan. Fairfax County adopted our strategic plan, and one very important element of Goal 3, which is focused on academics, is that we have the goal of all students learning how to read by grade 3. And that is a goal that every elementary school now has a school improvement goal that is focused on it. And we use our data to really track how well can we help our students learn so that we have as much success as early as possible so that they can all become proficient readers for their lifetimes. So we've got all these three forces are really converging on the same common goal, which is reading excellence for every child. So today's presentation, as I mentioned, is really going to focus mostly on that first bucket of the three big changes we heard about in the video. The curriculum is different. So every classroom in kindergarten through 6th grade is using state-approved curriculum of Benchmark Advance. If your children are enrolled in Poe, Glasgow, or Holmes, and they are 6th graders, they would also be using the curriculum in those grades because all across the board, K through 6, our students are going to be accessing Benchmark Advance. So that means that if you have a first grader from one side of the county to the other side of the county, their teachers are using the same resources, the same unit plans, and the same lesson plans to ensure equity across the division. And as you heard in the video, there is a new assessment we are using in those primary grades. The new assessment is giving us some real detailed information about where those gaps might be in skills so that we can make sure we close those gaps before 3rd grade. So it's called the VALS, the VALLSS, and it is a one-on-one administered test where your teacher is sitting down with your child and learning about all the dimensions that make up reading so that we can have our that information, the foundations for reading, have as much information as possible so that we can meet their needs in the classroom and through interventions as needed. Students in 3 through 8 are going to be continuing to use, or in the middle schools, it's new to them, using iReady, which is helping us to screen for difficulties, and then we can look more closely at the areas of weakness. And then the third change that you heard about in the video is that students who are demonstrating risk on assessments, and the word risk sounds scary, but basically demonstrating risk means that there isn't necessarily a problem now. There is a weakness in a foundation that we want to address as soon as we see it. So on the VALS, students are given one of 3 risk levels. They may be set low risk. Low risk means there are no foundational weakness we have to worry about at this stage. All they need is access to excellent core instruction. They may get a score of moderate risk. That just basically means that there are a couple of areas we need to do some fine tuning, extra lessons, extra support, and that can happen right in the classroom during small group instruction time. And some students on the VALS, it's called the high risk profile. We have, the iReady is the 15th percentile and below. That's kind of like the equivalent level of high risk. Essentially, that means we're going to make sure we're giving your child an extra half hour of intervention during a intervention block, so it's not going to take away from their core instruction, to make sure that they are closing any gaps they have in those foundations of reading so that they are well equipped to be progressing right alongside their peers. Those reading plans will be shared with your child, with your family in your parent-teacher conference. So do make sure that you have a chance to meet with your child's teacher. Okay, so now we're going to turn the page to, as I said, most of our presentation today is really going to give you a little more information about Benchmark Advance. As you'll recall, the Virginia Literacy Act requires that we choose from a list of approved programs. Those approved programs are because the state of Virginia has embraced evidence-based literacy instruction. What that really means is that we are approaching literacy instruction, teaching kids how to read, write, spell, and sound out words. We're helping them to understand texts that are on grade level, and the goal is really reading comprehension. But the methods for how we get to reading comprehension have slightly changed. The simple view of reading is a really easy way for me to explain those changes. In the past, we have designed reading instruction that spent almost all of our time directly teaching reading comprehension. So spending almost 2 hours a day with comprehension strategies. So like, are you understanding what you're reading? That is a very important outcome to our reading instruction. However, it is something that relies heavily upon two sets of distinct different skills. One skill is the ability to read the words, to be able to sound out and accurately read words in a page on grade level. And when we are accurate, our goal is to then get to fluency, which means that I can quickly and accurately say the words that are in front of me without a lot of effort, without needing to use context clues, without needing to guess from the pictures. So word reading skills is extremely important foundation for learning to read. Our new curriculum, you'll hear, is going to have word reading skills in the form of phonics instruction, spelling instruction, and word study instruction to make sure that all children are quickly and accurately able to read multisyllabic words, so words with really long words, and that they'll be able to do that at grade level. A second set of skills, which is totally separate, is the ability for them to understand oral language. What we know from science, and this is sort of a big shift in thinking, is that if I am really strong in my oral language, if I know a lot about a lot of topics, if I have rich background knowledge and experiences, if I really have a rich academic vocabulary, if I know a lot of words, if I use a lot of words, if I understand a lot of words, and I have been exposed to rich vocabulary in many different contexts and settings, that I'm going to be able to apply those language comprehension skills to the act of reading comprehension as long as I can read the words. And so what our new curriculum is doing is it's really leaning into language comprehension. And we're going to hear a lot more about that in the slides to come. So this view, the Scarborough's reading rope, is just a little more specific view of the simple view of reading. You can see on the bottom of this slide, the word reading, or the fancy word for reading, recognition, the word recognition skills that are covered by our new curriculum. They include the ability to have phonological awareness. That is the awareness that the words coming out of my mouth can be chopped up into syllables, into words, into individual sounds. I need to have that awareness that speech can be matched to print, because that's the foundation for learning to read the words. Learning to read the words then is the set of skills called decoding. Decoding is a fancy way to say sounding out words. The flip of decoding is called encoding. That is the fancy word for spelling. And so spelling is actually a very important part of this curriculum because they are two sides of the same coin. If I know all of the sounds of a word, then it means that I can spell that word and I can look at the word on a printed page and be able to read it. So making that match between the letters that spells different sounds, not just consonants, but things like, how do I spell ow? That's spelled with O-W. Those are the kinds of things, or O-U. Those are the kinds of things that we teach students in phonics instruction. And then the third element of word recognition is sight recognition, or the ability to automatically read words off the page. The language comprehension set of skills, you can see the top two are the ones that are really the strongest foundations for language comprehension, and those include background knowledge on a variety of topics and vocabulary in a variety of areas. So we're going to get into those when we look at Benchmark Advance. But for now, I want you to take a minute to think about your child's instruction thus far, and not just their instruction, but their skills. What connections might you be making to the presentation so far? And then we've got a poll for you. Think about your child right now, and based on what we just talked about, which set of skills would you say, and if you've got more than one child, maybe pick one that you're thinking about right now, are their language skills, their word recognition skills, or their reading comprehension skills strongest right now? So just take a minute, give us a reflective decision. Okay, we're up to about half of you who have responded. Now we're about 3/4. All right, our responses are slowing down, so we'll take 80% and share the poll with you. And as you can see, many of you feel that language is one of your children's strongest points. One of the reasons for that is language begins at birth. So them learning how to navigate the spoken world of your home, you really are their first teacher. And so now that you understand what an important role language comprehension plays in their ability to be reading comprehenders down the road, keep talking to your children, keep telling stories, keep listening to them, and keep asking them about what they've learned today, because that will absolutely strengthen their language comprehension skills and make them better reading comprehenders down the road. I'm not sure if we have anyone who is in these three schools. When we looked at, it looked like most of you had elementary school students, but if you had children in either Poe, Glasgow, or Holmes who were 6th graders, this is just to assure you that while they have an every other day of language arts instruction, we are leveraging the double time that they have for social studies instruction to ensure that they get the same number of units of instruction in Benchmark Advance as their elementary counterparts. So when we talked about background knowledge and vocabulary and language comprehension strands, what we really mean is that the bedrock of the Benchmark Advanced curriculum is a deep dive into a variety of concepts. These concepts range from science topics to social studies topics to literary topics. Right now, your children are in the middle of the life science unit. That sounds like science instruction, but it's language arts based, because what we are doing is we're focusing on building rich understandings and diving into academic vocabulary in a variety of ways. This curriculum is structured so that kindergarteners right now are studying that plants and animals have needs, just like me. And our sixth graders are studying relationships in nature. And everywhere along the way, our students are engaged in some essential understandings about the life science strand. What's great about that is next year, the kindergartners will walk into first grade, and their first unit will be about how plants and animals grow and change. And they will come with a lot of rich vocabulary they've learned this year in their kindergarten unit. So it really builds upon each other to ensure that students are getting a rich experience with language. And to teach those, we have a 50-50 split of stories and articles. So they're getting both fiction and nonfiction reading experiences, writing experiences every day to support their deep dive into life science. And then you can see Unit 2 is a literary one on character. Unit 3 is on government and citizenship. Unit 4, perspectives in literature, technology and society, themes across cultures, history, culture and geography, earth science, and economics are all topics for this year. So a unique feature, as I mentioned, is that vertical growth over time. And so you can see, like when our kindergartners begin studying that government and citizenship unit, they're really learning about rules at home, rules at school. But that culminates in the sixth grade examination called Beyond Democracy, where they're looking at different forms of government across the world. And so you can see how it builds over time. Another feature of this unit is that the kids are exposed to an essential question at the beginning of the unit, and they're really taught note-taking skills all unit long. So they're going to be building onto their answers to this essential question through something called the knowledge blueprint. So they're building a knowledge blueprint around here, life science. So right now, our kindergartners are studying the question, why do living things have different needs? And our third graders are studying, and how do living things survive in their environment with animal adaptations? While our sixth graders are starting to think about what roles can humans play in the balance of nature. So you see that these essential questions really are helping build their critical and creative thinking skills and strategies, and are appropriate to their grade. So take a moment to think, now that you've heard a little bit about the sort of why and the structure of the curriculum, how does Benchmark Advance compare to some ways that your child has learned English language arts, or maybe your children's older siblings learned English language arts in the past?
Thank you, Diane. So we're going to continue on keeping that in mind and what learning looked like for your child or their older sibling in the past. And now we're going to dive into what a lesson structure might look like and supports that are embedded within that lesson structure to support students with variety of needs in the classroom. So here is a visual of what a lesson might look like on Main Idea with key details. So you can see up top, there's a portion on engaging thinking for students. There's modeling within that part of the lesson. And then typically it's ending with that guided practice with annotation and pairing with a partner and sharing. You'll also notice there's a visual of the text that's being referenced in this portion of the lesson, and then learning targets. So we're going to dive into each of these components to see what other supports are offered for students with a variety of needs. You'll notice the learning topics are listed at the beginning of the lesson on the first page, and they are referenced weekly to share what students will be assessed on by the end of the unit. There's also connections that are made between these learning targets and state standards that teachers have access to as well. So just as an example, these are the learning targets on the previous lesson that were shown. So students will be identifying the main focus of a specific paragraph within a text. They'll also be asking and answering questions. They're going to share ideas with partners. And again, just identifying the main topic and details. So these same learning targets are embedded throughout this unit. There's also different levels of support that are embedded into these lessons for students who might have a variety of needs. They're signaled by these pictures of integrated ELD, of having either light, moderate, or substantial support. So this is a way for teachers to build access for students who might need a little bit more support than what the beginning of the lesson started as. You'll see a lot of it is like working with a partner, using sentence stems to help build that dialogue and discussion around vocabulary that's embedded in this part of the lesson. So this is another resource teachers can use for students with a variety of needs in their classrooms in order to make things more accessible. There are also these access key points that are embedded throughout benchmark lessons. They signal to a teacher that if a student might need additional support beyond what the lesson again has provided, that maybe you want to provide a different access. So for example, this is for a second grade lesson, and it's recommended that if students are struggling to read the grade level text, maybe you will use a read aloud accommodation. There's also an alternative activity that might be able to assess their learning, but still matching the same learning targets for the lesson. So as a reminder, benchmark is used as core instruction for students, even students with disabilities. There are numerous scaffolds and supports that will assist teachers to provide that core instruction and responsive needs to all the students within their classroom. Students with significant cognitive disabilities who are accessing the adapted curriculum are receiving instruction, core instruction through attainment. If you have a child who is accessing the adapted curriculum, there is also another webinar that will be offered in November to cover that topic. So keep a lookout because there will also be information regarding attainment. Here's another overview of how Benchmark Advanced provides resources and ideas for teachers to give that access and equity for students with disabilities. You'll see on this example, it's grounding itself in research on how Benchmark will provide and meet the needs of all students with disabilities. Teachers are given a place to learn more about specific disabilities. But the most important thing is that it's embedding itself with the ideas that Benchmark creates a safe, respectful, stimulating learning environment for all students, to include all students with disabilities within this Tier 1 instruction. This is just a list of general scaffolds and supports that teachers can use when implementing Benchmark Advance. Again, it's another way for students to gain access to the curriculum. Maybe students require test questions be read aloud or have extended time during tests that they're given. Sometimes students are able to show what they know by responding orally rather than in a written format. Chunking assessments into smaller units. Benchmark allows students to take online assessments and over multiple days, and it'll pause where they are. Teachers can also reduce the number of items so that we're gaining that essential knowledge of what students know. There's also various opportunities for teachers to embed graphic organizers and visual supports, again, to build that accessibility for students with disabilities. Also embedded within Benchmark are additional resources that can provide instruction for reteaching in different areas. These include materials for comprehension, for language development. There's readers theater embedded throughout. There's also different print concepts interventions for grammar and spelling. There's these great quick checks that teachers can also utilize in all areas of literacy, so fluency, comprehension, phonics, word recognition, phonological awareness, and language development. And again, this is resources that allows teachers to reteach if they notice that students might be struggling with some concepts that are being taught. The English language development is also important for multilingual students. So ESOL teachers will be using the ELD curriculum, which is called Benchmark Express, for students who receive ESOL services. Benchmark Express is a comprehensive English language development program that is aligned with Benchmark Advance. So students who are multilingual learners will receive Benchmark Advance as their core curriculum with their classroom teacher, but then in small groups, they will also receive instruction in Benchmark Express, again, building in those scaffolds and supports for multilingual learners. So students who are receiving advanced academic services will also participate in Benchmark Advance. They include extensions for advanced learners embedded within Benchmark. In addition, AAP teachers are also given guidance for implementing supplemental Benchmark Advance programming to help support AAP students. We are going to take a second to watch a video about some of the features embedded within Benchmark Advance, such as visual tracking that can be used, highlighters, sticky notes. Students can also access Windows dictation that can be used for speech to text. And I'm going to show a video that's just going to highlight some of those resources or features, sorry, that are embedded. The right one. Oops, wrong one. There we go.
Benchmark Education offers more than 2,500 interactive ebooks for you and your students. These literary and informational texts are precisely leveled and are built with tools that enhance and extend learning so that your students experience a deep and rich encounter with reading. Your students are provided with tools to actively engage with the text. As students read, they can write notes in the margins of each page, helping to increase comprehension and build the reading-writing connection. There are also built-in annotation tools, such as the highlighter, which can be used to locate text evidence, a pen for freehand annotations, and shapes to draw lines, circles, and boxes around text. Every interactive ebook from Benchmark Education includes audio. Text is highlighted as it is read aloud for the student.
Close your eyes and picture the most beautiful photograph you have ever seen. Can you come up with just one?
Students can also place sticky notes at point of use on the page. These can be color-coded for instructional purposes. Teachers often like to use sticky notes to differentiate instruction. They can leave prompts or scaffolds inside an ebook for their students. They can choose to do this for individual students, groups of students, or even the entire class. Teachers can create their own pages within the book. They can use these pages to embed videos that extend learning beyond print, or even to create graphic organizers for students to complete within the book. As students and teachers make their annotations and customizations, everything is saved to their own accounts, which are available from school or home, anytime, anywhere, and from any device. There are no apps or plugins to install and constantly update. Simply log in and everything works. Benchmark Education's interactive ebooks are a powerful tool for instruction, providing you and your students with the tools to enhance, extend, and enrich literacy in your classroom.
While Jillian is firing up the next piece, I just wanted to point out that that nature in focus sample that they were showing and walking through is the student magazine for the grade level. So all students will have a paper magazine, and students who may require some additional tools and access are going to be able to access that exact same paper magazine in digital format so that some of those tools and functionalities can be more supportive of their learning. And now what we're going to do is sort of celebrate and end today with a little look at Benchmark in action. This is a video that was shown at a school board meeting last, yeah, okay. This is a video that was shown at a school board meeting last week to give you a sense for how our teachers are jumping into this new transformation in their instruction. So take a look at Chesterbrook Elementary staff.
J-A-C-K-E-T. And then are we done this full sentence? What are we missing? Good job.
I think our teachers really appreciate the explicit guidance of reading instruction. It's allowed them to work together tightly as a team as we unpack our materials. And it doesn't matter if you're a novice teacher or if you're a brand new teacher, they really are pulling together and working together for the success of our students.
As we're jumping into Unit 1, what I'm really excited for is the link and the connection between the reading lessons we do that day, the word study lessons we do that day, and then it finally connects to the writing lessons we're doing at the end of the day. So for me, just having that connection through all three of those topics is just such a huge, massive bonus, right? It just makes the learning easier for these kids.
Catherine?
I remember when we read the book Encounter and we were talking about this. I think Encounter is to like meet, to come face to face with somebody who you have like, you maybe knew or not know, but you just like came face to face and you encounter that person.
I like that you built on that background knowledge of the prior book that we read, and I saw a lot of people did that too, the book that we read.
The kids are really enjoying it, I think, because it is so rigorous. The children feel really challenged, but they also feel really motivated to do it. I think it's fast-paced, but that keeps them interested. So we just finished the launch unit, and my students really enjoyed the constructive conversations. And we talked about how this is not just a reading skill, but this is a skill that we'll take with us in all of our subjects and into life.
It has been a bit overwhelming, but at the same time, we're all starting fresh. We're all starting all over again with this new curriculum. I'm very excited about it. There's a lot of resources that are available to us. I'm very interested in expanding the learning for our students. It's like a Mary Poppins bag. You can reach in and there's something for everybody, and it's not me trying to make something up or trying to pull something off the internet to see if it works. There's a lot of variety in the bag, and you can tier it towards each student's needs that they have.
We're incorporating the science of reading into every classroom every single day, starting in kindergarten all the way up to 6th grade.
Now our essential question is the question that we get asked in the beginning of the unit, and by the end of the unit, we should be able to answer that question of how do we respond to nature? All right, I'm going to give you about 2 minutes on my timer. Turn and talk about these questions. Go.
I think that the teachers got a really nice preview of what the whole year is going to look like in the launch unit, which kind of overwhelmed them at first. As we started unpacking Unit 1 last week, they realized the launch unit was just an introduction to everything that's coming. And now that we're getting into the actual content units, they have a lot more time to focus on one skill at a time in each area of phonics, comprehension, vocabulary, all that.
The supports I'm primarily providing is definitely, making sure they have access to that whole group instruction. They're getting the content, they're getting the lesson. And if we have to provide, certain accommodations or modifications, that's very accessible through the program. And then, during those built-in small group lessons, I'm able to provide, intervention or reteaching, collaborating with my co-teacher. So we are able to, I think, provide access to all learners. So it's really, I think, is that equity that we really strive for in FCPS.
My favorite thing about teaching first grade especially is like the reading and seeing their confidence grow. It's great for them to come to school and say, at home over the weekend I was able to read words with Magic E or words with digraphs, so that's really great and that's really heartwarming, and it kind of answers my why of why I teach.
Great. So we're almost at the end. We're going to end with just
So
a
what is
couple...
ClickUp? ClickUp is an all-in-one productivity software where you can manage everything and anything related to your work. Your documents.
Because let me stop playing.
There you go.
There we go. Okay. So again, students in grades K through 6 will be studying those same topics as Diane mentioned throughout each unit. So in grades K through 6, it'll be focusing on the same topic throughout each unit. Having already completed the introductory unit, and students are currently embedded in that unit 1, which is again about life science. Students will come home with magazines related to each unit and calendars that they can use for family engagement related to the topics that they're studying. And this is just a visual of what that looks like. And then we're going to end with a little poll to talk about how has this or has your child shared or brought home anything related to life science or talked about the topics that they might be learning in the classroom. So yes, no, not sure.
And now I see all these no's coming in. Now you can say, hey, I happen to know something about what you guys are working on in school. So tell me more about what you're learning about plants and animals. I
always love the look on surprised faces. Like if I did that to my
Exactly.
child, like, wait, you know what I do in school?
Exactly.
It helps.
Looks like we have Harold and the poll. Got more no's than yeses, but hooray for our 9 children who have actually come home and offered some information they're learning from language arts this year.
So think of some ways or ideas, this is again just reflecting to yourself, that you can extend learning experiences from the ELA curriculum in your home environment. And now live, we have a section on the Fairfax County public website that is dedicated to family resources for literacy. This is a visual of what it looks like on our website. So you will find any information related to literacy for parents there. All right.
Thank you so much for the wonderful information that you have shared with us, Diana and Jillian. It was really very informative, and I hope that everyone has enjoyed the presentation. And thank you.
All right. I'm going to keep working on